Welcome back to the Real Friends podcast. We're going to try this all over again because we were supposed to have this Harry Potter podcast come out about a month ago, and technical difficulties made that impossible. So we're fighting through some technical difficulties tonight, but I think we should be good. So, Brynne, welcome back.
Yeah, it's great to be back. So glad we were able to, finagle it so we could get this recorded for real.
Yep, yep. And then we've got a new member. So I've been keeping my wife in the shadows, and she's hopping on, and she was busy doing her Patronus and House tests earlier today. So
Sweet.
we're ready to launch in. So we talked about before doing the Herculean task of splitting the 8 movies into 4 movies per episode. It's not happening. We're going to be lucky to get through 2.
Yeah.
So I figure, the last time we talked, obviously we didn't release it, so we're going to be saying a lot of the same stuff. But the important thing I want to do is introduce these movies. As we get into the later ones, we can go more in depth like we do with some of them. But
Yeah.
reviewing 2 movies, every detail of the movie in a podcast isn't really going to work.
Right.
So these are some of the most beloved films ever made, one of the most beloved stories ever told. So yeah, let's go right into it, man. So the first one, and as I said to you previously, in this household, it is the Philosopher's Stone.
All
It
right.
is.
All right.
I don't know why people in the UK think we're too dumb to know what a philosopher is and changed it to Sorcerer's Stone, but this is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
I suppose, but if you think about it, Nicholas Flamel technically is a sorcerer because he's like magical and stuff. I don't know.
Sure.
Like, I don't know why they had to change the name. Why they even change it? It
I
makes
don't
no
know.
freaking sense.
I don't
They
know.
should have just kept it.
I've heard people just think we're too dumb to know what a philosopher is. I don't know. But so yeah, the first 2 movies, we talked about this, why it'd be good to pair them together. They're the same director, right? So they're
Yes.
both directed by Chris Columbus, who
Oh,
has
yeah.
been making waves on the internet lately because he was the director of Home Alone 2. And he came out in a statement saying he wishes he could remove Donald Trump from that movie.
Oh.
So
Well, you know, oh well.
whatever. This is a movie podcast. We don't talk about
I
politics, but I think
I
I think it's
mean,
funny. I think it's funny that he's come out and said that. And the even funnier part is, the dude's name is Chris Columbus, so everybody's like, "You're mad at him, and you like killed all the natives when you came to the U.S. Like, what? What do you
yeah.
mean?"
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, the one thing I was talking to you about that I didn't realize is, when this movie came out in 2001, only the first 4 books were released prior to that. So the
True,
first four
true.
books came out in 97, 98,
Hmm.
99, 2000.
Hmm.
And then the other books, Order of the Phoenix came out in 2003, Half-Blood Prince 2005, and Deathly Hallows in 2007.
Yeah. Yep,
So
that's how it was. The books were not even finished when they started making the movies.
yeah. And you see that a lot with books. Like before a book is finished, they usually like have a TV deal or movie deal in place. But that's usually for like a book, not a book series. So it was
Right.
very interesting how they did this. And I don't know, would the book series have gotten finished if the movies weren't so popular? I don't know. I guess we'll
I
never know
mean,
that.
no, I guess we wouldn't. I think though that my personal opinion is J.K. Rowling would have finished them,
Yeah,
but it probably would have taken longer
sure.
because she was definitely like I remember as since my family was always super into Harry Potter. So I remember as we were like coming up and like the movies and books were getting closer together, I was
Yeah.
being like, oh man, is she gonna finish the series before all the movies come out? Like I was getting a little nervous about it, but no, she did.
Yeah. Well,
And it all worked out.
at least we don't have a George R. R. Martin situation where the TV show ended and the books never got done. So
Oh, is that for Game of Thrones, you mean?
yeah, Game of
Okay.
Thrones. Yeah.
I never actually
Um,
read those books.
yeah, I haven't
So
either. I watched the TV show, which was one of the greatest TV shows ever until the final season, and the final season was horrendous. But
yeah,
is what it
everybody
is.
says that. Yeah.
So I think I've told you this story before. I can't remember. So, in elementary school, I was not allowed to watch Harry Potter. The
Okay.
whole black magic thing, like worries from parents at the time, whatever. So one day, my friend Aaron brought me a VHS copy of The Philosopher's Stone into class. And so in 2001, I was in kindergarten or maybe first grade. So
You would
what
have
I
been
did,
6.
yeah, I would have been six.
6.
Yeah, I would have been 6 years old. And so I have always been a little shady dude when I want something. And so I went into the bathroom and I tried to make myself throw up. It didn't work. So I took water and I splashed it all over my pants, like big time.
Okay.
And then I went to see Penny, our school nurse, and told her that I just threw up all over myself.
Wait, Penny was your
Um,
school nurse at Richfield
yeah,
at the
uh-huh.
time? Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Uh, so then, I had convinced her. She didn't believe me at first, but I was
Hmm.
very persistent. So finally she was like, all right.
At 6 years old.
She's like, all right, we'll call your mom. So they called my mom to come pick me up and take me home. The whole
Okay.
reason I did that is because my mom was at work and I knew she would take me home and go back to work.
Okay.
So that exact thing happened. She took me home. She went back to work and I sat in my room and watched Philosopher's Stone on VHS. So I got to see it for
Dude,
the very first time.
that
That's
is badass.
So at 6 years old, I swindled my way into watching this.
Oh my God, that is hilarious.
But touching on Chris Columbus again, right? He had said in an interview he heard people talking about combining two or three of the books into one movie,
Mhm.
by just selecting their favorite scenes to make a more engaging movie, I guess. And
Okay.
his whole thing was it would have made his job very easy as a director, right? But it would have ruined the film adaptations. And they were
Oh
dead
yeah.
set with JK. They were making these as close as possible to the books. That was their
Yep.
big thing at the beginning. We know that changes later on, but
Well,
Chris and his team were
they had
very,
4 different directors. No, wait.
yeah,
Yeah, 4.
yeah,
Yeah, I forget all their names, but the first 2 were Chris Columbus. The third one had a different director. The fourth one, see, I remember the director of the fourth movie, Mike Newell, because he was the worst one because he refused to read all the books.
yeah,
And then the last 4 movies had the same director. So they
okay,
had 4 different directors for the entire series, which is it's really hard to do, but at the same time, it was like basically a decade of work, and I
yeah.
don't
And
know
that
what
always
director would be
happens.
right. And like, there's
Yeah,
no director that would be able to stay on the same project for 10 years. Like, that's
right.
like way too long.
I mean, you saw it before when it was like people's projects themselves. Like George Lucas did the first 6 Star Wars, but like,
Right.
even just the sequel trilogy had 2 different directors,
Mm-hmm.
at least 2. Like J.J. Abrams had the first one, and then Ryan Johnson, I believe, had the second too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you see that all the time. It's not as big of a deal with adaptations because they're given the same source material. It's like
Right.
do it and do it right. And I have a soft spot for Goblet of Fire, but I know it's nowhere close to the book.
I
So
mean, Goblet of Fire is a good movie. It really
yeah,
is. It was one of my favorites growing up. Not my favorite. My favorite was would have probably been it still is. My favorite right now is Chamber of Secrets, actually.
okay,
But the fourth movie is a good movie. Mike Newell was just very difficult to work with as a director because like he wanted to do stuff like burn down the Forbidden Forest and like do all this
yeah.
crazy stuff, and he was a baby and refused to read a children's book. He's like, oh, it's like as thick as a brick, and I'm like, it only takes 30 minutes to get through one chapter, man. You only have like a fifth grade reading level or something. So like, I don't know, man. He was just hard to work with, and they had to um keep like putting him back on track because he wanted to do all this crazy stuff. And
Yeah,
his whole shtick was he was competing with the other directors before him. He didn't care as much about the story,
yeah.
unlike Christopher Columbus, where this was a huge passion project for him. You can
Hmm.
really see it. Like, I have some notes from the first movie. If you, well, actually,
Let's do it.
do we want to start talking about the first movie? Do you want to? Well, I guess we could talk about our Patronuses and stuff later.
Yeah, we can
But
do that. Honestly, we can even do that in a later episode too. It doesn't matter. Let's bust through the first movie kind of like we did last time and
okay.
focus mostly on Chamber because that's your favorite.
Okay, so the first movie, Um, Actually, so something I remembered from like my research and everything is interestingly the last scene of the first movie is what they filmed first. I don't
Oh.
know if you guys knew that. So like at the end when they're all leaving and like
Hmm.
Hagrid gives Harry the photo album of his family, that's the scene that they filmed first. And interestingly, that's when they tried the green contacts. So at first they were going to make Daniel Radcliffe wear green contacts the whole time, but
Okay.
they really irritated his eyes.
Mhm.
Mm.
And I respect that because back then, like CGI and like all that computer stuff wasn't as good. So going back
Yeah.
through the
Right.
entire movie to change his eyes to green would have been really hard.
Yeah.
So they kept his eyes blue, which is fine.
Well,
Um,
we always find in films that practical effects are better, even now. Like
right.
you look at the Lord of the Rings compared to the Hobbit. Lord of the
Oh
Rings
yeah.
was all practical effects and it
All
looks
makeup.
awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
You look at the Hobbit and it's just CGI crap.
And
Like it
that's
looks
why those
bad.
movies age so well. Even though it's been
Yeah,
like 20 years, they
exactly.
still look great. And the only way you
Yeah.
could remaster them would be honestly just to redo some of the CGI scenes. But even then, the Balrog scene, that still
Hmm.
holds up
Yeah.
today.
Hmm.
So like I can't knock it.
Well, and we've
Um,
seen a shift in Hollywood that they're moving back to practical effects, and it's showing. It's
because
very
that's
much
like
showing.
I mean, I'm not gonna knock animation, but I have a lot of problems with animation today. I mean, if you look at
Mm.
like Bambi and then you look at like, I don't know what's something new that just came out, the new one. Oh freak. I can't
Like
remember anything.
Moana or something like that.
Like Moana 2. Okay, look at
Yeah,
Moana 2 versus Bambi. Okay,
yeah,
it took them 5 years to make Bambi. Bambi is a freaking masterpiece. And they
yeah.
just threw Moana together in like what? I don't know,
Well,
18
yeah.
months.
I don't want to get too much into Moana, too, but Moana was supposed to be a TV show, and then they're like, "No, let's just make a movie," and they just like threw crap together.
What?
Like, yeah,
Oh,
it was,
it was so bad.
but
It
that's
was
what
so bad.
Disney does. Disney does not care. They just make money. They don't
Yeah,
care.
it's really sad. So
Yeah.
anyway, um we go another thing that they tried at the last scene because they filmed it first was Hermione's buck teeth. They actually gave her
Oh,
prosthetic teeth to be bigger.
No
And
way.
they realized after filming that scene that they couldn't do that the entire movie because like it was hard for her to like talk and like it was hard
yeah,
for her to like get used to it. So they took out Harry, they decided, okay, we're not doing the contacts, we're not doing the buck teeth. So
yeah,
that was really interesting that they filmed that first. I had no idea because like at the end you're like, oh, it's like it's the end, but they
yeah.
don't always film things in order, and I kind of forget that sometimes.
Yeah, well, you and I are theater actors and we're used to doing things in order, right? So
Yeah.
the idea of jumping around, I mean, that's such an interesting thing though about film actors and why I so badly want to be in a film is a lot of times the first time they see the finished product is when you do. Like they go to the theater and they see the movie and it's the first time they've ever seen it.
Oh, you mean like at the
Um,
premiere or something when they all
yeah.
go the whoa,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
I've
the
seen
okay.
it
first
first.
time. Like
Wow.
that's why you'll see actors break down crying and being
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, that was amazing." Because
That's crazy. And that's something
yeah.
I never thought about too. Although I am really sad going back to like animation. So if you look at Aladdin, when that
Hmm.
movie came out, especially like, Robin Williams was alive and stuff. At that time they did Aladdin and also I'm specifically thinking too of like Lion King. All the characters would be in the same studio and they'd record their
Yeah.
lines together. So it was more like a performance. Whereas now all the characters record their lines separate and then they just
Yeah.
splice them all together. And I think that's soulless.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's honestly not just animation. That's a lot of stuff. Like if you've seen Avengers Endgame, like the
Okay.
scene where they all come together at the end to fight Thanos, like
Mm-hmm.
Falcon's line, Anthony Mackie's line of "on your left," he recorded on his cell phone and texted that to the director. Like, yeah,
What?
it's all very different now. I mean, because, just like normal workplaces, COVID showed us that we don't all have to be in the same place all the time to get things done,
True.
but it does take something away. And again, you and I being theater actors, there's something to the community of being together and making things together.
I mean, would Robin Williams have been so great without having people to feed off of when he was doing his
Right?
improv lines for Genie? Like, I
Probably
mean,
not.
we've kind of lost that today.
Yeah. And we still
And
do
I'm
get
sad
that.
about
We
it.
have directors that prioritize that, but it's not
Yeah.
everything. So
Right.
things aren't bad, they're just different.
Yeah,
So,
you're right.
but you're very traditional, and I know.
Yeah, you know me. But yeah, the first movie was like I actually don't remember the first time that I started watching Harry Potter, the first one, because I just grew up watching it. But like
Yeah.
I remember my mom, because you said you weren't allowed to watch Harry Potter because of the black magic and all that stuff. And my mom was kind of, my family went to church, we grew up in that, and my mom was hearing all of that stuff, but my mom was like, well, I'm going to check it out for myself. So she buys the first book and she reads it, and she's like, I don't know what people are talking about. This is a kid's book. Like, what? People are crazy. So
Yeah.
like she was like, this is not what so she realized those people just either didn't know what they were talking about or didn't actually read the book, because
Yeah.
there's probably just a lot of like, oh, you can't read it, it's like dark
Oh
magic
yeah.
and stuff, but people didn't check it out
Yeah.
for
It's
themselves.
it's fear mongering. That's been around forever. That's just what it was when I was 6 years old. That was the fear mongering. We talk about kids, let's talk about, you and I talked about this before. One big challenge of these movies is that the kids weren't allowed to work all day. Like there
Oh
were child
yes.
labor laws. So they were only
Mm-hmm.
allowed to work a total of 4 hours a day. Now, they could be on set for 8 hours, but like 5 of the hours of the day they had to be in schooling.
Yeah.
And then they had to have 15-minute breaks every hour and had to have meals. Like that was the huge challenge and why these movies took a little bit and why
Mm-hmm.
we kind of get them closer together a little later on because,
Mm-hmm.
they're adults at that point.
Right.
So,
So, and that's
um,
that's a huge point, and like, um the fact, which I another thing I really liked about Chris Columbus is when he was casting everybody, like he really looked for, kids that were the correct age,
right.
but also that made it challenging because they were really inexperienced. And so
Sure.
he like, which I love this, he taught them how to how to do it. And so by
Yeah.
the end, like everybody kind of knew what they were doing. And like you can really see the differences in, like you can really tell this was a passion project for Chris Columbus compared to like the
Hmm.
Percy Jackson movies. He actually
Yeah.
directed those too, and they were terrible. Like he
Yeah.
like he did
Not
not
very good.
care. And
Yeah.
like, although, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe he tried to get the kids older so it would be easier.
Maybe.
And instead of
But
casting like 12-year-olds.
yeah,
Sure.
but and I think the Percy Jackson TV show now with kids is a lot better than the movies for sure.
Okay. I'll
But
have to check it out. I haven't seen that.
yeah, yeah. The what he did is what I used to do when I would hire people. I wouldn't hire
Okay.
them based on experience. I wouldn't hire them based on what they could do. I hired them based on personality. Because you
Okay.
can teach someone to do anything, but you can't teach them to be a good person or a fun person. So like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he saw how the actors interacted with each other and he was like, "Oh yeah." And that's one big thing he talks about is how much fun these kids had, dude. And I mean, this movie like despite it not at all being my favorite Harry Potter movie, not even close, the world building
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. It was
was
amazing.
so well done. Like
When they
it,
get to Diagon Alley, one thing
dude.
I noticed in the like, so I never really noticed this before, but the whole point is that Muggles can't see the entrance to the Leaky Cauldron.
Yeah,
And like when Hagrid is walking Harry up, and this is the first time I noticed this, when they're far away, the sign for the Leaky
Yeah.
Cauldron looks blank. It's very like
Yeah.
inconspicuous. And then as they get up, you literally see the Leaky Cauldron sign
It
appear.
just
And I was like,
appeared.
oh my God, that was awesome. And I've been watching these movies for years, but I specifically was like, wow, they really, really tried. Oh, it was such,
yeah.
and then seeing Diagon Alley for the first time.
One of my
Yeah.
notes on my sheet just says Diagon Alley is so sick. Like that's all it
Yes,
says. Like and going to see
literally.
that at Harry Potter World, like in Orlando, dude, is just having a butter
Oh,
beer and standing around
I think I
on
was 16 the first time I went there, and
I was too.
I like almost cried walking underneath that
Yeah.
arch. Like it
Yeah.
was insane.
And apparently it's so
Oh,
much cooler now, so I want to get back.
oh yeah, for
Um,
sure.
So, let's dive right into the movie. Like I said, like we're not going to do too much, but I want to talk about the opening scene because this
Okay.
opening scene when I watched it last month crushed me, dude. Seeing Hagrid, McGonagall, and Dumbledore together, like the
Hmm.
fact they're immortalized now, but
Yeah,
they're
they're
all
all
gone.
gone. Yeah,
They've
they're all
all
gone.
died. Like, and that, yeah, it has to be awesome for their families that they're immortalized in film.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then, so then we get Vernon and Dudley. And in my opinion, Vernon and Dudley, like Vernon has passed away. I know that.
Yeah, he
Um,
has.
they played villains so well, it was hard to see them as anything else. And that's why the actor that played Dudley has
Hmm.
completely changed his appearance. Like he's
Yeah.
like this like super thin dude. He played like Edgar Allan Poe in that movie The Pale Blue Eye that you and I watched.
Mm.
Yeah, but Vernon, I can't see him in any other movie and think he's
Yeah.
not the bad guy, just like
I'm like,
Joffrey in Game of Thrones. Like the
Oh
the
yeah.
kid that played Joffrey in Game of Thrones quit acting because he played a villain so well
yeah,
that people hate him.
you can't see him as anything else.
Yeah,
Oh
people
my
hate
gosh.
him and he can't play anybody else.
Well, do
So,
you guys remember another actress that happened to? I think I mentioned this last time, but do you guys know Little House on the Prairie?
hmm.
Hmm.
The actress who played Nellie, little kids would come up to her on the street and
Yeah.
slap her
Yeah,
because they hated her so much because she was the bully. Now
That's
yeah.
I don't
yeah.
know anything else she was in, but my mom grew up watching that show and I would watch like reruns with her like when
Mhm.
as I was growing up and she told me that story and I felt kind of bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really sad.
Yeah.
But about world building again, my one favorite shot in this entire film franchise is when the boat scene when they first get to Hogwarts.
Oh, the
Absolutely. So
iconic boat
cool.
scene.
That's my
Yes, that
favorite.
is so
It's
good.
Hagrid leading them with his lamp. Like,
Yeah.
dude, it's the absolute best. Um, and then yeah, so I just have you jump in either of you whenever you want. I just have random notes about the first movie. And you told me a little bit about this, so I'd like you to talk about it more. So
Okay.
we go whenever they're talking about Harry joining the Quidditch team, we go to the
Okay.
trophy case, and it
Hmm.
shows that his father, won with the Quidditch team in 1971, and a McGonagall was also on that team.
Yeah. If you
Oh
look close
yeah.
enough, you can see it off to the side for another
Yeah.
trophy.
So the thing is, movies do that a lot where they throw in little Easter eggs,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
they don't have anything to do with the story because I remember that trophy case that you're looking at. And so what Hermione does is she shows Harry like, "Look, your dad was a seeker too. Harry's
Yeah.
Yeah.
dad was not a seeker. Harry's dad was
Right.
a chaser."
Yeah.
Number 1. So they changed that for the movie to give Harry more of a connection to his dad.
Very
And
nice.
then McGonagall never actually had any children. So it couldn't have
Mm,
been her child. Now
Could it have
I
been
don't
her? Is she young enough that it could have been her?
she looks old enough.
know.
I don't know.
So like McGonagall, so they did age up a lot of the characters for the movie because of Alan Rickman. They really
Right.
wanted to cast Alan Rickman as Snape. So
Hmm.
because of that, they had to age up a lot of the characters, which included McGonagall. Now she was older, but she was much older than Harry's parents. So
Okay.
in the books, Harry's parents were only 21 or 22 when they died.
That's right. You
Oh.
did
And
tell me that.
so
So they'd have
there's
been
no
like 35 if they had lived till Harry got to Hogwarts at
right.
most.
And so there's no way that could have been McGonagall. Now she did actually have siblings.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But I don't remember. I don't she might have been was she the only one that was magical? No. I don't know much about her siblings. She did have
Yeah.
siblings. Her McGonagall's mom was a witch, and her dad was a Muggle. So,
Mm.
and actually, her dad was a Muggle pastor of all things, which is
What?
insane. And so, her mom hid her magical abilities from her dad for a long, long time, basically until they had kids, and the kids started showing magical ability, and then she had to come clean.
Mm.
Um, but as far as I know, the lore doesn't talk about any of McGonagall's relations, but I know that she was never officially married. She had two different love interests within her life, but she never had any children. So that
True.
was kind of just like a name drop that
It's
a
just
little
it's just a
Easter
fun
egg.
Easter egg. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a fun Easter egg, and it gives us the opportunity, 24 years later to talk about it.
Yeah.
Um, so sticking with Quidditch, I talked about this last time. We keep talking about Lord of the Rings. So, the parallels between this and Lord of the Rings are pretty cool. So
Hmm.
Oliver with the bludger, um, gives me Pippin from Return of the King vibes. He's just like grabbing it and like, yeah, with the
Yeah.
plants here, like so much. And another one is the troll falling in the bathroom is just like the cave troll in Balin's tomb or Balin's tomb. Like
Yes, you're
it's the
right.
same. It's
Yes.
the same thing. So I only have two more, and then I knew you want to hop in. Go ahead. One thing that was really cool was the chess game. The chess pieces were all real, so
Yeah,
practical
they
effects
were.
again.
Hmm.
It's pretty awesome. And then I know you had to talk me out of this last time, but I'm gonna make you do it again because I'm still
Okay.
not on board. I think the death of Quirrell is so dumb
Not agree.
and I don't like it. And just the idea that it's like your mom loved you so you can defeat
By
him.
just touching him.
Yeah, just touch him and melt his
Yeah.
skin. Like what
I
what are you?
mean,
Are you Rogue from X-Men and you suck the life out of
Rogue.
people when you touch them? Like
Oh my
what
God.
is that?
Yeah.
Give him a sword, man. He uses the sword in the second one. Give him a sword in the first one.
Right.
I
Like
know,
do
right?
some
I mean,
Have him a Vada Kedavra his ass. I don't care. Like
like just something right away.
I mean, I can't explain the end. I mean, I can explain all I remember when I was watching as a little kid, it was really scary when Voldemort's soul, like the soul of
Like
Voldemort left Quirrell's
coming
body
out.
and like went through
Yeah.
Harry. Like I was really scared of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, like the
So
screaming
scared.
book. Oh my gosh, I jumped
Oh my
every
God,
time.
yes. Yes.
It was so scary. But as far as the ending scene, it is kind of dumb. I
Thank
mean,
you.
It's so
like
Thank
dumb.
you.
it's I because like from a story standpoint, I guess the only reason that they did that was because I think the only spell we see Harry cast in like the whole movie is like
Yeah.
Wingardium Leviosa, and like, and I'm not even sure he does it. Like I don't know if we even see him successfully do
Yeah, I
it.
don't know. He does up with the broom. He can do up. He
Yeah.
does
So
that.
anything with
Yeah.
Quidditch, he's like on it,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
He's on
anything
it.
other than that, I'm like, he doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, oh, that's really funny. But
Well,
like,
I don't
oh, go ahead. Do you have a
oh, I'm
question?
sorry. Oh, well, I don't know if it's like the fact that he's able to like touch his skin and like melt it. I know in later movies that like they show that Harry is also a Horcrux because of
Mm-hmm.
that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I know like especially in the second one that we'll talk about, but like when he takes that basilisk tooth and like stabs the book, that's a way to destroy a Horcrux.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know like if Harry's ability or connection to being a Horcrux is like coming back and like destroying Voldemort or like that piece of him with something as powerful as what Harry is with that connection of the Horcrux to him. I
Maybe,
don't know if that
but
makes sense.
if it was just the spirit of Voldemort, I'd be more on board with that. But it's Quirrell, and Quirrell's not Voldemort. He's just a conduit that Voldemort is in.
I
You
mean,
know what I
I'm
mean?
Well, I
guessing
thought,
what probably happened, at least I would guess, is that they used some kind of spell to bind themselves together
right.
because
True.
Voldemort couldn't live on his own,
Yeah.
so he had to live off of another being. So before he took over Quirrell, he was actually in Albania where he was when he like that's where he went after he lost his
Yeah.
body. He was possessing animals, mostly snakes, to move around because he has
Yeah.
a connection with snakes being a parcel tongue and stuff.
Hmm.
Until Wormtail found him eventually, or maybe that was no, I'm getting all mixed up. No, it's like so. What happened was he bound himself to Quirrell, and
Right.
so the reason why Quirrell couldn't touch him is because Voldemort couldn't touch him because they were together. But what doesn't make sense is the fact that Quirrell was an adult and Harry was a kid, and he could have just used magic to kill Harry,
Yeah.
but
Right.
he didn't. And then, but I'm guessing from a story standpoint, they're like, well, if we use magic to kill Harry, he's just dead.
Well, yeah,
Right,
And
there
just
goes the
roll
rest
obviously.
credits
of
going.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's it.
You know what? That would have been more interesting. Give it to me. Give it to me.
Oh, but I did want to say, since you brought up going down into the chamber, they really cut out, they had, which I guess they had to save time, but they cut out a lot. If you guys haven't read the books, they cut out a lot of the tests to get to the end.
Yeah, I
So
did.
we know, so the how it should have went was we have Hagrid who gave Fluffy. That was the first test. And then we also saw Professor Sprout's devil snare.
Right.
Which in that scene they changed it too. So another thing Christopher Columbus did was he really loved Hermione's character. So he gave her a lot of Ron's lines.
Right.
Because they kind of turned Ron into the comedic relief in the
Yeah.
movies.
The
But
dumbass, basically,
yeah,
for lack of better terms, the
right.
dumbass.
So
Which he's a
like
ginger, so I get it.
Wow. Wow.
poor Brie.
I'm not, okay.
uh,
Moving on.
and then well, do I want to? Okay, so in that scene with the devil's snare, when they first get caught, they're all trying to figure out what to do, and everybody's freaking out, not just Ron. And Harry's the one who remembers about the light. They don't like light or heat or anything like that,
Right.
and they're like, we got to start. They say something like, Hermione, you got to start a fire, and she's like, but there's no wood. And then Ron says, "Where?" He goes, "Are you a witch or not?" And then she's like, "Oh yeah," and they cast the fire spell. So that's how that scene actually went, which is really funny.
Yeah,
And
but
then
they
we do
couldn't
get
make Hermione look dumb. They
right.
never wanted to do that.
She's much more relatable in the books. Like in the
Yeah.
movie, she
Yeah.
seems very perfect and all that kind of
Yes.
stuff. And
Yeah.
even in the later movies, they kind of take away her frizzy hair. I always kind of pictured her with like really curly, frizzy, unruly hair. And
Yeah.
they really
Yeah.
only did that in the first two movies.
Yeah.
Um,
I thought when I first read, so I've only read the first two books, but when I
mhm.
read Philosopher's Stone, I pictured her when I read that, and then when I later watched the movie, I kind of pictured her more as like a Moaning Myrtle type, not a freaking heartthrob that every young kid would be in love with. I pictured her as this nerdy, weird, like
I
kind of
mean,
dorky
yeah,
girl.
that's kind of the point. And J.K.
Yeah.
Rowling even admitted that Hermione was a way to place herself in the story.
Oh,
So
okay.
J.K. Rowling was like, yeah, I really based Hermione after me.
Yeah.
So like now not everything obviously, but kind of like how Tom Bombadil was like Tolkien's way of putting himself in Lord of the Rings.
Then he wasn't even in
Hermione,
the freaking movie.
I know. But it's okay.
Ah!
He didn't have anything to do with the story. I mean, I
Yeah,
get
yes,
it.
he did. Yes, he did.
Okay. Um, and then yeah, so we get to see the keys with Flitwick, the chessboard with McGonagall. Then they actually cut out two trials. So the next trial after that was Quirrell's troll. So the reason why the
Hmm.
troll was in the castle in the first place was because Quirrell just let out the troll. He
Right.
just let it out. It was already there because it was guarding the stone. He just let it out and let it rampage and stuff.
Hmm.
And then the trial right before you get to the mirror of Erised is Snape's potion riddle.
Okay.
So that was
Yeah.
really cool. And of course, like I don't know, I just really liked it. It would have been really cool to see it, but I guess in movie terms, it would have been really boring to
Well,
watch.
and it might not have been boring, but this is a what, over 2 hour movie. Like at some point you got to cut some stuff out. So they tried to stay as true as they could. I believe there were some things they could have cut out earlier to make it more enjoyable later, but it's still
Mhm.
very good. Like
Oh yeah,
my complaints about these movies are minimal and they're
Yeah.
very fun.
Yeah.
yeah, for
So,
sure.
and if you just want a copy of the book, here's an idea. Just read the damn book.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. The books are
But
really good. They're
yeah.
so good. I mean,
Yeah, I
eventually I
told
ended
her
up reading the
tonight I
books.
need to read them all. Like
Yes,
I
read them.
need to. I tried to read them for AR in high school, and I just ended up watching the movies and taking the tests and still did okay.
I mean, I get it. I didn't read them. The first time I even read them, all the books was sophomore year in high school.
Yeah.
and I've read
I remember
them.
you carrying them around between classes. I remember
Oh, yeah, because I don't know, I had way too many books all the time, but it was fine.
that.
But yeah, I really liked reading them. And then, but I didn't get a chance to reread the entire series again until after I graduated from college.
Yeah.
But I read them. Oh my gosh, has it really been 5 years?
Hmm.
It's been like 5 years since I've graduated, and I've
Yeah,
read
dude.
them. I've read the entire series twice.
We're getting old, man.
Oh, tell me about it. I'm not ready.
But
I'm not ready to be old. It's
I
hard.
uh I don't know what you guys think. I think we hop into Chamber of Secrets and get after it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Heck yeah.
So the first thing I noticed, and it makes so much sense, but
Yeah.
I love it so much. Dude, the growth spurt with these kids between
Yeah.
movie one and two
Yeah.
is unreal. And I'm
Yeah.
very happy that they weren't filming the two movies at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Because then you got to actually feel them growing because it's a year later.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It helps to sell that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, the growth spurt was insane, and it's very, very depressing that Richard Harris died before this even came out. He died. He
Yeah.
got to see it, but he died through, which was the Dumbledore actor. For anyone that doesn't know,
Mm.
Mhm.
he also played English Bob in Unforgiven, which is the last podcast release. So go check that one out. Yeah, he passed away 3 weeks prior to this releasing.
Ugh.
So
Which is crazy.
yeah, but
It's
right at the beginning of the movie, we see my favorite character in the entire franchise that I know is better in the books, but he's really good in the movie, and that's my boy, the house elf Dobby.
freaking love Dobby. He's like the best.
That's
I
my
He
wish
I'm
we
really
gonna
is.
I think I'm gonna get a Dobby tattoo.
You
I've been
should.
do
thinking
it.
about it.
You
Do
I
it.
think I'm
Do
absolutely
it.
going to.
should.
Oh, you got to make it say, "Master has given Dobby a sock."
I
Yeah, with the
figured,
sock too.
honestly, dude, what
Yeah.
I was gonna do is get it right below my calf with his
Yes.
hand grabbing my sock. That was my idea.
That would actually be cute.
Yeah,
Yes, that would be
yeah.
so
I'm
awesome.
thinking about it.
Do it.
Yeah, so if there's any
Maybe.
tattoo artists watching this and you want to do it, hit me up.
Oh my gosh, Dobby is such an amazing character, and actually, you should read the books because he's in way more of the books,
Yeah,
way
you
more.
told me. Yeah,
Absolutely.
He's
I
in
need
like
to.
he's in like so much of the books, and so that makes, which I mean, okay, so if you remember, okay, spoiler alert, you guys got to watch the movies, but when he dies at the end, it's already gut wrenching. It's even
Yeah.
Yeah,
more gut wrenching when he dies in the books because
Yeah,
of how
absolutely.
much he's been there throughout the
yeah.
entire series.
Yeah, I remember reading that and I was like not well for multiple days. Like it was so rough to read
And
because you
anyone
just grow to love him so much.
anyone upset that she just said that, I will say what I say every episode. This is a film review podcast, not a film preview podcast. If you haven't seen these films, don't watch the podcast.
Sorry.
I mean, it's only
We'll get
been
over
what,
it.
20,
Yeah, I'm
Right.
23 years?
that's like I talked about 12 Angry Men in our Primal Fear podcast, and I was like, spoiler alerts for a movie released in 1940.
Yeah.
Like, if you
Yeah.
didn't see it yet, I'm
Sorry.
sorry. I'm not going to, I'm going to see Until Dawn tonight. I'm not going tomorrow tweet about it.
Mhm.
But, well, I can't even tweet because Twitter doesn't exist anymore. But, like, it's been out for 20 years. Get over it. So,
Yeah.
I told you last time, and I need to know if you watched it. I can't watch this movie without thinking about Harold Trotter and the flesh-eating slug repellent. Did you watch it?
No.
So we are not reviewing, and our fans can be mad. I'm sorry. We are not reviewing 3 and 4 until Brynne watches Harold Trotter and the flesh-eating slug repellent.
That is a hard
Okay,
stipulation.
I will.
And
As
you're
long as-
probably going to hate it, and I don't care.
As long as you watch Harry Potter and the Puppet Pals with the wizard swears.
Oh my god.
All
The
right.
unicorn
I can do that.
turds.
Oh
All right.
my
I
god.
can do that. I can do
And
that.
the elder
Oh.
swear.
Oh, that's a that's a good compromise.
Yeah, that's like, okay, so Harry Potter Puppet Pals and the wizard swears, that's like that's my favorite episode of theirs. They freaking toured. I don't know if you know this, but they toured
What?
and did shows and stuff. Yeah.
No
Back in
way.
the day. And I totally would have went to see them if I would have known that because they're
Absolutely.
hilarious.
Is it
Oh,
is it good or is it brain rot good?
yes.
It's really witty. It's really funny. They make Neville a freaking gourd.
All right. All right. I'll watch it.
You gotta
I'll
watch it.
watch it.
It's really funny. Um,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, talking about Dobby, I mean, Dobby has the really cool scene with the cake and stuff. Like Dobby's trying his damnedest, dude. And the
So
Weasleys.
actually,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
if we
Sorry.
want to talk about that scene, since you brought up the scene with the cake, it's really cool in the book because he makes it smash on the floor in the book,
Oh, okay.
which is like
Yeah.
nothing. I mean, that's not a huge difference. But then obviously they have those really important people there, and the cake smashes on the floor, and then Dobby disappears. And then
Hmm.
a freaking ministry owl flies in and lands on the wife's head, the important guy's wife. Okay,
Yeah.
like it flies right in, and she has a bird phobia, so she runs out of the house screaming. And then Vernon is like, "Oh, I lost the deal or whatever." But of course, the memory modifying wizards show up, and they change everyone's memory.
The
But
the
they
Men
also
in
don't.
Black guys with their wands.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I mean, they might as well
Yeah.
just use the Deluminator thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that it kind of looks like a Deluminator in Men in Black, which is kind of
Right.
cool. So they like modify everyone's memories, and then Harry's like starved for like a month.
Have you ever seen, I think it's a Reddit thread, but the so Vernon comes up to yell at Harry and he's talking about how he was almost done with his golfer joke. Have you seen the Reddit thread of what they think the golfer joke is?
No.
No,
So
what is it?
we need to find it. I can't think of it, but apparently it's like pretty racist and raunchy.
What?
Like, yeah, someone has gone down like that path. And you know what? I could see that from Vernon. Vernon probably uses
Absolutely.
words that shouldn't be used by white people, I'm
I
sure.
mean, let's be real. It's Vernon. He hates everyone.
Yes. Yeah,
Right.
it's
So
Vernon.
everyone that's not him. So
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
so yeah, I could totally see that for
Yeah.
sure.
But yeah, I'll try to find that thread and send it to you because it's quite the journey. I don't get on Reddit much. I should. That's quite the journey through that. But yeah, so Harry's up in his room, and in the movie it happens that night. He's not
Right.
starved for a month. It happens that night. The Weasleys saving him in the car rips, dude.
That was
Like,
awesome.
yeah,
Like so actually in the book, it's even more cool. I'm sorry, I'm just like telling everything about the book. But
you're our book
You're
expert.
good.
like it's even cooler. So what they have to do is, remember how I said Harry, they literally cut a little dog door in his room, and all he gets to
Yeah.
eat for like a month is a can of cold soup. And Petunia will like slide it under the door like once a day. All of his magic stuff, besides Hedwig's still in her locked cage in his room, but all of his magic stuff is in his cupboard under the stairs, locked.
I didn't
The
realize
one
that.
he used to sleep,
Mm.
where he used to sleep. And so then when the Weasleys come and rescue him, Fred and George sneak downstairs and pick the lock without magic.
Oh, that's
I do
sick.
remember that part though. Yeah.
That's
That
sick.
was so if you remember that part, like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that makes it so much more nerve-wracking because they have to
Right.
sneak through the
Yeah.
entire house without waking anybody on
Yeah.
top of
Get
that. And
everything
like,
loaded up and then leave. Yeah.
and then it's very like, and they literally like rescue him. They turn his room into a prison basically. They would let him out
Yeah.
like once a day, maybe it was like once or twice a day. Brie, you can correct me. Wasn't it like once or twice a day to go to the bathroom?
I think so. I haven't read the books in a while, but I think you're right. Like they really did make it a prison where they were
Yeah.
just like, we're gonna remove all happiness and joy from you until like you
Which they've already
surrender.
been
Yeah.
doing his entire life. So
Right.
they just did a little worse. But I do have to say, speaking of entire life, and I have already scratched the back of our friends in the UK calling it Philosopher's Stone, so don't hate me for this comment. But the idea he was only given cold soup, British food's not that good anyhow. So I mean, it's probably not that different from what they ate downstairs, dude. The best food
Hey,
I had in Britain wasn't from Britain.
oh my gosh. I mean, as long as I could live off of Campbell's tomato soup, even if there's nothing in it. You just give me a can of that, I'll just eat it with a spoon. Like
Yeah.
it's really
It's
good by itself.
just cold tomatoes. Like
Yeah, it's
that's
just
all.
cold. It's just cold.
Yeah. Um, and so then, we go to the Weasley's house and this movie gave a lot of appearances to characters. I don't know if it's different from the book, but a lot of characters that I adore that are so big to this franchise that were barely even mentioned in the first movie. Arthur Weasley,
Yeah.
GOAT.
him.
Yeah. Oh, he's so great. The whole Weasley family, honestly,
I
even
know.
So
Molly,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
amazing.
Lucius Malfoy.
Oh, yes.
That
Insane.
man, so I'm gonna plug a
Hate
future
him, but love
episode.
him.
Yeah, I'm gonna plug a future episode because this dude is a villain among villains and plays a villain so well.
Yeah.
He plays a villain
J-
in lots of stuff too.
yeah,
Isn't he also the
Jason.
villain in that the Patriot?
Well, that's what I'm about to say. So
Oh,
in
sorry.
June, we're doing an episode on The Patriot, which
Ooh,
is
love that movie.
The Patriot is one movie that as a kid I was allowed to watch. It was the first Blu-ray I ever bought, and I watched that movie every day. I would go to Schlegel's, all right, shout out Schlegel's, hardware store, grocery store here in town, and I would get a meatloaf dinner with mac and cheese. And every time I watch The Patriot, I taste mac and cheese, even if I'm not eating it. Every time.
I love
Yes.
that. Just salivating for mac and cheese.
Every time, dude.
Oh
I'm
my gosh.
probably on that episode. I'm gonna sit here and eat Schlegel's mac and cheese. And you know what? It's gonna make me sick because I'm lactose intolerant, but I don't
Worth
care.
it.
Just take your Lactaid, man. Just
I
if
have,
not, just
dude.
take
He
it.
refuses
I
to
would
take that.
I would rather die than put that chalk in my mouth. But Lactate, if you want to sponsor us, like I'll do it. Like I'll start
I'll
eating
do
it.
it.
But
I'll do it.
I don't love it. I would rather have Surfside. So Surfside, shout out Surfside if you'd like to sponsor the pod. Yeah, I don't like Lactaid. But yeah, dude, like we meet these characters and then Moaning Myrtle. I talked about her in the last
Love
one. We
Moaning
meet her
Myrtle.
in this movie.
She's apparently like a 35-year-old woman,
Yeah,
which I didn't
yeah.
know when
Really?
I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No way.
Oh
Her
yeah.
actor's like, I don't know, in her 30s, and I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
I
I
had
mean,
no idea.
yeah, neither did I. And I literally just,
She's
I was like,
so young.
I was like 20. Well, how old am I right now? Oh God. I was like 28 years old. So like right now, not like right now, but like I was this year when I
Yeah.
found out that she was like in her 30s, and I was like,
Yeah.
what?
No
And,
way.
and then, we talked about it last time a little bit and I was corrected, but I'll say it again. Like, this movie feels like the budget was bigger than the first one.
It
Absolutely.
probably was because after they
Well,
realized
but
how
it
big of a hit it was.
but it
Right.
wasn't. And
Oh,
I
wasn't
remember
it?
figuring out last time that's probably because the budget for the first film was building everything, building
Yeah.
the world, building
Oh.
Hogwarts, building Diagon Alley, all
True.
these things they reuse in the second movie.
Yeah.
But like this movie, we get the flying car, we get the howler, we get all these
You
things
get
that
the
are
Whomping Willow.
Another
Yeah.
thing that they built was Private Drive.
yes.
So like, because in the first movie they just rented it, but then
Right.
when they came back to do it, the people who lived there wanted way more money than they were
Mhm.
willing to spend to rent the street, so they just
Yeah.
built it, and then they
Yeah.
used that same set for all the rest of the movies, which
Yeah.
saved them money in the long run.
So you can't really compare budgets in a film franchise like this where you're
Right.
reusing most things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this movie definitely spent a lot more money on the aesthetics of some things. Dude, the Howler is so cool. What you say?
Ooh.
Like,
So
let
I
me
actually have some notes about the Howler scene.
bring it.
Heck yeah.
So remember Errol, the Weasley's owl.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
if you remember him, he's kind of old. He's probably, honestly, I mean, owls are stupid anyway. They had like
Right, but
3
he has,
owls
like,
for like every owl character because they can only
extra.
teach one owl one trick.
I'm
Right.
so excited for you to watch Harold Trotter and the Flesh Eating Slugger Pellet for Errol. Because
Okay.
Errol, when he comes, I'm just going to spoil it for you. It's going to be even funnier when you see it. When he flies into the Weasley's house at the beginning,
Yeah.
the YouTube poop closes the window and he hits it and dies. He just hits the window and dies.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, but yeah, we learn right away about Errol that he's like really dumb and like
Yeah.
always late, but
Yeah.
probably
Gets
because he's old.
lost.
He's probably half
Right.
senile. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Like he's
Sure,
so
yeah.
old.
His sonar is off.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
like
he's
he needs
lucky
his
if he's in the same
he needs his
town.
batteries changed.
Right.
Oh yeah. And so what I realized the last time I watched the movie was the kids always get their mail in the morning at breakfast. So when
Yeah.
everyone else is like already opening their mail. The way it happened in it happened made it even more embarrassing because Errol was
Right.
hours late. So they were
Yeah,
eating
yeah.
lunch. And so
They're at lunch.
Right.
everybody flew. When he flew in, everybody was watching and nobody else was opening mail.
Yeah.
So then when he drops the howler,
You know, everybody's
like,
watching for sure.
yeah, and like at least if it would have been in the morning when it was supposed to be, some people might have been more distracted, like looking at their own
Yeah.
mail or like getting ready for the day. But
Yeah.
no, everybody was
No,
eating
all
lunch in
eyes
the
were on
middle of
him.
the day. And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It would come at that time because Errol's
Right.
always late for everything.
And
Right.
and what's the little Irish kid's name? Is it Shane?
Seamus.
Yeah, dude.
Seamus,
He's like,
yeah.
oh, Ron got a howler.
Oh, go on,
Like,
Ron.
let
I
me
got
just
one
get
from my
more
gram
attention.
once. It was
Yeah.
horrible.
Like everybody pay
I
attention.
I love that
Yeah.
kid. He might be my second favorite character in the
Seamus?
series. Yeah, especially
But he kept
is it
burning his eyebrows
is it
off.
this movie or the first one where
The
he keeps
first one.
blowing everything
The
up?
first one, because
Yeah.
they're
They
trying to do the with
Oh
They
yeah, with
make-
the
Mafioso,
flag
the
or
feather.
the feather, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they make that a joke throughout the entire
Yeah.
movies,
I
which
love
wasn't
that.
in the books, but it was hilarious. Like I don't
Well,
It was
mind
the
that
best.
change. It was
especially
so funny.
I don't remember which Deathly Hallows it is. Maybe the first one, or
Two.
it is the second one where they're like, "Well, we're gonna blow up the bridge, Seamus. I think you've got it." Like,
Morgana was like, I think Mr. Finnegan can help
yeah,
you in that
Mr.
area.
Finnegan.
And he
Yeah,
was like, I can bring it down. That was like the best line of that movie. I was like,
I
oh,
am so excited to get to Deathly Hollows because, dude, the scene with Harry stepping out as Snape is up in the front and then McGonagall saving him. Like, I have this thing, and I don't know if it's because, like, as a kid, I saw Shiloh, and you've seen Shiloh, right? With the little
Mhm.
beagle.
Yeah.
The scene where Judd is attacking the kid and the dad comes out and throws him on his ass and tries to fight him. I've been
Mhm.
so pumped up my whole life that anytime an adult steps in to help a kid like that, I
Yeah.
get juice. So when McGonagall's like, nah, dude, like I'm
Nah.
here, I'm doing it. Like I want so badly when we have a kid for somebody to do something for them and I can just go full Shiloh dad and just like, nah, bro, it's not happening today. We talked about Lucius, and I know I'm skipping around because we're not diving too deep. We only have, probably about 20 minutes left here, but I want you to tell the story again because this is the craziest thing I've ever seen in a movie, dude. So
Okay.
at the very end, Harry is there with Lucius, and Lucius tries to hit him with a Vada Kedavra right outside
Yes.
Dumbledore's office. Like he's trying to kill a kid. And it's because, right, that was the only spell Jason Isaacs knew. He didn't know any other spells. So he just went to say Avada
What?
Kedavra. And they just
Oh
were
my
like,
gosh.
all right.
They're
Like,
like, wait.
we'll let it ride. Yeah, he almost killed a kid. And Dobby, like, steps in and saves the day.
You know, I
So
don't remember that part.
Really? Yeah, no,
That's
he's
crazy.
literally like he's starting to kill him. And Dobby's like, nope.
Really cool.
so I love that scene in the movie because of course you get Dobby defending Harry. Like that's like
Yeah.
super gratifying because Dobby had to take all that crap from Lucius the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like really satisfying to see that. However, that did not happen in the book.
Well, I'm
That's probably
sure
why
it
you don't
didn't.
that's probably why you don't
Yeah.
remember it,
That could
Bri,
be,
because
yeah.
it was not in the book like at all.
Yeah.
And obviously, Lucius did not do that in the book. But the scene right before that, when Lucius comes to Dumbledore's office and they're talking, um, he says to Dumbledore and kind of Harry too, well, let's just hope that Harry Potter is always around to save the day. And Daniel Radcliffe says, don't worry, I will be. And
that
that
was
line was
improv.
improvised.
Yeah,
Yes,
he
it was
did.
improvised.
He's
and
like
they kept
12
it.
years old and he
Yeah.
improvised that line and it was so moving. Like
It was
Daniel
amazing.
Radcliffe is very good in other things he's in, like The Woman in Black, stuff like that. He's very, very good. I have always associated him and Elijah Wood. They kind of look similar. They're both,
Mhm.
short dudes that were in these huge film franchises as young people. I think Elijah Wood was 18 when he played Frodo. Daniel Radcliffe was born to play this role.
He
I feel
was.
like the moment he walked into casting, they were like, "Yep,
Yeah,
you
that's it.
come here."
Mhm.
Well, and
Had to.
actually, the guy who played Malfoy, the guy who played Draco, help me out. What's his name?
Tom
Tom
something.
Felton.
Yes,
Yes.
Tom
Tom
Felton.
Felton.
Yeah.
Okay, he actually
Sorry,
auditioned for
Tom.
Harry
We love you.
Potter.
Yeah.
No, it's just I have a baby now. It's like really hard for me to remember stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so like, and I knew his name. I just couldn't remember it. But anyway, he
I don't have
actually
a baby. I couldn't remember it, so you're good.
he he actually auditioned to play Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But they were like, no, you. And then he re-auditioned as Malfoy.
Yeah,
So
and
that's
he's a
how he got
perfect
that.
Malfoy,
He
dude.
he is, and like
Harry
this
Potter.
movie,
You
Potter,
know he got in the
Potter.
wet from that too. Like
And there was extra malice because he wasn't playing Harry, so he was actually
right?
mad.
But yeah, this movie is like totally my favorite, and I have a few notes that I wanted to mention. One is, oh frick, I forgot to say this about the first movie,
Hit it. We're
and
still
I
in the same
forgot it
episode.
again.
Hit
Okay,
it.
so in the first movie, the centaur scene with Harry in the Forbidden
Yeah.
Forest. That's how the
yeah.
centaurs are supposed to be. They did the centaurs correctly in the first movie.
Hmm.
The centaurs are very smart, very well spoken.
Yeah.
They do defend the forest, and like in the book, Harry was saved by Firenze,
Yeah.
um, the centaur. And centaurs are actually, they don't really touch on this in the movies. They're really into astrology. So they
Yeah.
do like a field of divination, but with the stars instead.
Hmm.
And it is pretty accurate, but they just don't know the timing of everything.
Sure.
But like they in the fifth movie with Umbridge, when Umbridge was taken by the centaurs,
So good.
they
So
made them.
cool.
I didn't like the way they did the centaurs
Mm.
because
No, I feel that.
I liked that scene. It was very
Yeah.
good, but the centaurs from the first movie is how the centaurs are in the book. Now, in the
Yeah.
fifth movie, when they did the centaurs, they made them too
They didn't
native.
talk too much. They were like it's almost like they gave them this idea that they were dumber in a way, at
Right.
least what I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
from
They
it.
made
And
them
I'm like,
more like
what?
animals, and they're
They were just
not. Like
Yeah.
creatures. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they
were
yeah, yeah.
literally
creatures.
they literally, like in the movie, they make them like make horse sounds. They do not
Right.
make horse sounds. They speak
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
people do.
Hmm.
So
Right.
I thought that they made them too animalistic in the
Sure.
fifth movie, and I
I
Yeah,
like the
agree.
way
I
they did
think they
it
were
better
trying
in
to
the first
justify the
movie.
brutality of what they did to Umbridge. I feel like that's the reason. And I
Could
mean,
be.
you think about it too, like,
Or just how Umbridge viewed them.
you know, centaurs are basically humanoids, right? So, like,
Right.
there's some humanoids that are less intelligent than others, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's what I always attributed it to.
Which I totally get that, but also like if because in the book she still insulted them. She still
Mm,
called them like basically filthy half breeds in the book, even though they were very well
Right.
spoken. So I feel like that could have been even more powerful. Like she has no
yeah.
reason to look down on them, but she does anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she
So
looked down on
like
everyone despite being, I mean, she had a Napoleon complex.
I
So,
mean she's only
Mm.
like what 4'11" or whatever, so she
yeah,
couldn't
at
really look
most. Four,
down.
10 and a half.
Right.
Is she a pure-blooded like wizard? I don't know if that ever came out anywhere or not. But that I'm just
I
curious because of how she acts. Like she's so much better than everybody else. Like it'd be funny to turn out that she's like, oh, she's a mudblood too. Like,
Whoa.
so
sorry.
Easy. I'm gonna have to
Umbridge
bleep that word.
Umbridge is not pure blooded. Okay.
Okay,
So
see, yeah, that's funny.
Umbridge,
Yeah.
so a little bit about Umbridge's backstory, really quick, because I know a lot about the war. Um, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So how it all went down was Umbridge's father was a wizard and her mother was a muggle. And they had two children. Umbridge actually has a brother, but he's a muggle, which I
Ooh.
don't really like it when people say, "Oh, you're a squib." In my opinion, a squib is a non-magical person born to two magic parents. If you have a magic
Yeah.
person and a muggle that are married and have children, if you have one magical child and one non-magical child, that non-magical child is not a squib.
Yeah.
They're just a
Right.
muggle that takes
Just
after their non-magical parent, in my opinion.
right. That would just
Um,
know about the wizarding world then. I
right.
guess.
And so Umbridge's father, he actually worked as a janitor for in the Minister of Magic in the ministry. That was his job. And as after she graduated from Hogwarts and got her job at the ministry, she paid her father to retire because she did not want people to associate her with him. And then
Mm,
she
That's
started
fair.
telling people that she was pure-blooded, and she bought Slytherin's locket and with the S on it to tell
Right.
people that she was related to the pure-blooded Saloon family.
I do
So
remember that thing. Yeah.
So that's what she was telling people. So she was lying. She's only half wizard
Yeah.
technically.
Which is so funny too, because then her whole thing was, I must not tell lies. Like,
Right?
yeah.
Because she's living a lie. I don't
Right.
know if you
Yeah.
people know this, but motivations are everywhere.
Right. So like when Harry calls her out, then later on, obviously a different movie than what we're talking about, but like I was just like, hell yeah, dude, go. Like, get it.
And that whole thing, I must not tell lies, wasn't in the book, but I still loved it for the movie. It made it
Right.
so powerful for
It
sure.
made you
Like,
hate her more. Yeah.
yes,
If that
which
was possible. I feel
Right.
like
right.
she's the most hated villain in this
Easily hated
franchise.
for sure.
Is
Yeah.
is she the most hated?
She has to be.
What
Yeah,
about
I would
well,
say so.
there's debate about between her and Voldemort, but Voldemort's basically Hitler.
But
I mean,
and Voldemort though, like you obviously he's the main villain, right? But you start to kind of, get it a little
Like
bit with
understand
him,
him.
understand
he's
him
got a
with
sob
her.
story. Yeah.
With her,
Right.
she's just a monster.
Right. She's just a
She is evil incarnate. But
yeah.
Yeah.
that's a later movie. We'll get to all that. I have 3 notes I want to do about this movie, and then I'm
Okay.
turning the floor over entirely to you, and they're all just kind of funny.
Okay.
So Snape clapping is one of the greatest things in the world. Like it's
Idiot.
it's like Alan Rickman didn't know how to use his hands. I don't know if John McClane hurt him so badly in Die Hard that he couldn't clap
My
anymore.
God.
Also Hermione, like, so at the very end, after all this stuff has happened, the basilisk has killed all these things. Uh, Dumbledore says, "Hey, because of everything that's happened, all of our exams are canceled at the end of the year." And Hermione is devastated. And of course she
Yeah.
is, because she's literally our friend Courtney, who has just spent
Yeah.
so much
Courtney.
time studying and is upset that she can't do that. So that's two
Yeah.
of them.
Just like,
And
this
then
is my pivotal moment for the end of the year.
and then
She's like, no.
you talked about in the first one how awesome that end scene is with the train and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, the ending hits me so much harder when Harry looks at Hagrid and says, "There's no Hogwarts without you, Hagrid."
Yeah.
And all the kids hug him.
Sheds a
Like,
tear.
just the idea that he's dead. Like,
I
the
know.
actor is dead. And
I
it's like,
know. I can't believe that.
dude, like,
It's like the cuddliest.
oh my
sweetest
gosh,
thing.
such a dude. Hagrid's such a dude. Hagrid has to be one of the greatest, especially in the films.
Mm-hmm.
Hagrid has to be one of the greatest literary characters ever created.
Oh yeah,
So,
for sure. He's
those
like
are
amazing.
those are my notes. So please, YouTube, take it away. We've got 15 minutes. So
Okay. Well, I wanted to bring up my favorite quote from this movie. It's so funny. Okay, so my favorite line in the movie is when Harry and Ron take the polyjuice potion. And so they are Crab and Goyle and they get caught by Ron's brother.
Yep.
They get caught by Percy and Malfoy finds them and Harry forgets to take off his glasses. and and he goes and Malfoy looks at Goyle and he goes, "Why are you wearing glasses?" And he's like, "Oh, reading." And he's like, "I didn't know you could read." I literally laughed at that line for like I had to pause the movie and laugh for like 3 minutes. It was really fun.
And those moments, right, give you such a picture into Malfoy too, because we see the human side of him.
Right.
Like his boys, like Malfoy's always there for his 2 boys. I know obviously he looks at them as lesser than him, but like it's a human side that Tom Felton just played so well. The fact that they are children acting this well.
You kind of
like,
forget that. You're like,
yeah,
oh,
dude.
they're just like kids. They're like what
Right.
in the second movie they're like what 13?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And
13? Yeah.
the day this podcast comes out is the first day of my play. And there's a kid in the play I'm in who is a much better actor than all the rest of us. And I love that, but it's like, man, stop showing me up, bro. Like, why are you showing me up all the time? Like, yeah, that's how I feel like all the adults felt about like Tom Felton, Daniel Radcliffe, all of them. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's so hard to remember that they're just kids.
yeah.
Um Another scene I wanted to talk about was that was different in the books, but I can see it why they did it in the movie. It was the scene when Malfoy calls Hermione a mudblood.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So in the movie, he calls her a mudblood, and everybody just like stares.
Right.
Mhm.
And then they go to Hagrid's, and then she's explaining to Harry, who doesn't know what that word means.
Mhm.
But in the book, I feel like it was a when Malfoy said it, everybody like the Gryffindors were ready to fight the Slytherins over that word.
Yeah.
Oh
Like
yeah.
literally, people had to hold back Fred and George from like pummeling
Well, and
Malfoy.
Arthur
Yeah.
too, right? Arthur was ready to throw down, I thought too.
He
I
wasn't
don't think he was
there.
there. Yeah.
It was at
Oh.
Hogwarts, so there were
Okay. I thought it was at
no
Diagon
adults
Alley.
were
Okay.
around because
There
I'm
was
sure if
another
adults
scene in a different movie that you're probably thinking of because I
in
do remember that too.
earlier in that same movie, um, we'll get to that scene, but there is a scene where Arthur in the book attacks Lucius Malfoy physically. That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
But then in this scene, like when I was watching the movie, I realized that like, and then I read the books. In the book, Ron explains to
Right.
Hermione and Harry what that word means because they were both raised by Muggles.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
even though Hermione's really smart, she would have never come across that word in
Right.
wizarding literature because it was slang.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I can see why they had her explain it
Well,
because
she
it
was
lets us
devastated. Like it let us into like the emotion of it more.
Yeah.
right. It let us see that she was really insecure about being a muggle born and why she studies so hard. Whereas in
Right.
the book, it gave Ron a chance to be like, no, that's why I cast this spell because it was such a horrible word and he should have never have said it because Hermione only knew it was a bad word when everybody reacted like that.
Right.
She
Yeah.
didn't know what
Exactly.
it meant at all.
Does the
Right.
So
frog thing happen though? Like
the
the spell
slugs,
going wrong? Yeah, the
The
slugs.
slugs.
Does that
yeah,
happen in
the
the book
eat
Yeah.
too?
slug spell
Because
still
his
goes
his
wrong.
wand's still broken at that point, and
Yeah,
that's
because
Mm-hmm.
he's
Everything.
puking in a bucket.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So through between throwing up slugs, he's explaining to them
Right.
what
Yeah.
what the
Just
word
casually.
means.
Yeah.
Hmm. Now
He's
that
like,
scene
ugh.
you guys mentioned, um, so in the movie, Lucius. So at this point, this is before they go to Hogwarts. They're all in Diagon Alley together,
Yeah.
um, and Draco and Lucius see Harry and the Weasleys and
Yeah.
Hermione in Flourish and Blotts, the
Yeah.
bookstore,
The
and
hand-me-downs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah, and oh, man, this is a cold line. Lucius says. He says, "What's the use of disgracing the name of wizard if they don't even pay you well for it?" Oh, that was such a cold line. And in the
Yeah.
book, Arthur physically attacks Lucius. Physically
Yeah.
attacks him, like punches him, and like they're fist fighting. And Hagrid has to come over, and he literally picks them up and pulls them apart like
Right.
two fighting cats.
That would have been so cool to see in the movie,
Right.
dude. That would have been
Right?
so
Oh,
cool.
that would have been so cool. And because it in the movies, it kind of seems like, oh, Arthur's just a pushover.
Yeah,
He
Right.
was
he's
Like
kind
you
not
of a
that
don't
way.
see his
yeah, he's
character.
kind of a pussy. And
Yeah.
You
yeah.
see in the
You
book,
see it
which there's a
later.
yeah,
Or
and
sorry,
there's a
in the
lot more
movies.
physical fights in the books. You
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
where Fred and George get it. Like if you get as you get
Right.
further in the books, and Fred and George are always like ready to square up with people,
Yeah.
they get it from their dad.
Yeah.
Right.
He's like that. He's like that
Yeah.
too.
But in the movie, yeah, you don't see that from Arthur until maybe Prisoner of Azkaban,
Yeah,
maybe
maybe.
later. Yeah,
Hmm.
so it did help, at least in the book, that like you really did get to see how Arthur's character
Well, and
grew.
he just
Yeah,
plays because we see it in Goblet of Fire. He just plays the very protective dad.
Right.
right.
Like that's his thing.
Yeah.
So
Hmm. Oh, another thing that I really liked that the movies did was they added uniforms.
yeah,
So in the books, there were no uniforms, which honestly, probably the first two times I read through the series, I didn't realize it because I was picturing the movie stuff in my
Right.
head.
yeah,
Yeah.
But they don't have uniforms. They just wear plain robes all the time when they're
mhm,
at Hogwarts. They don't even wear
Hmm.
street clothes like we see them do in the movie.
yeah,
But I'm glad they added the uniforms because I think in the UK, actually, uniforms are much more like
Yeah.
prominent than they are here in the States,
sure,
Mhm.
right,
and it's a visual reminder of which house everyone is in.
Yeah.
Not that
Right.
you wouldn't know eventually, but especially at the beginning, they wanted you to know, which
It
I
shows,
totally get that.
and this is a bad word, and I don't want it to sound that way, but it shows, it segregates them, and
Yes, it does.
it helps to understand when they're always like, go back to your houses. Like Hogwarts is basically four schools in one, and
Yeah,
having the uniforms really shows that.
Yeah.
right.
Right. It
And
just
with
helps to
oh,
visualize the different personalities too of all the
Yeah.
kids, especially as you're learning how each character is, as especially in these beginnings of these movies, you don't know how they are, and that helps to
Yeah.
like the
right.
more you learn about the houses too.
And it's a really good visual, like in the books. In the books, they tell you, oh yeah, the Gryffindors and Slytherins had this class together. The Gryffindors and Ravenclaws or Gryffindors and Hufflepuffs had this class together.
Mm,
But in the movies with the uniforms, they don't have to say it. You can see it with
yeah.
their
Yeah.
uniforms.
Right.
Right.
And another thing with the uniforms, I don't see them do this a whole lot in the later movies. But I remember specifically in movie 2, in that scene with Mrs. Norris, when the teachers have the trio stay back, you
Yeah.
can tell that Ron's uniform is a hand-me-down because
Yeah.
the black is not as dark as Harry and
Yeah.
Hermione's
Right.
It's
uniform.
super
And I
faded.
never noticed that before.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you can
You
tell,
definitely can.
and that's like a really small detail that my book loving heart just loves. And like I just love that. And I never, well, I wasn't thinking about it before, I guess, but I don't know if they see Christopher Columbus. He was just the perfect director because he thought of like small details and stuff. I
Yeah.
didn't notice a whole lot of that later in the later
Yeah.
movies, like with their clothes.
Yeah.
There was much more plot in those too. Like these ones are still very world building.
Right.
Um, this one we do get more of a taste of Voldemort, but it's, not until the end of the third movie where it's like, or the end of the fourth movie, sorry, where we really get hot and heavy Voldemort, and this is going to be our big villain. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, let's yeah, we're gonna talk about the other six. Let's wrap this one up. So, we talked about this before. Um, we all already know your answer, but we're gonna do it anyhow. As we go through, we're ranking these. So the
Okay.
first two, obviously yours is Chamber of Secrets, followed by Philosopher's Stone. I'm there too. Two is the best one so far, and then the first one. Where are you at?
I have to base it off of only these two movies no so far.
Correct.
Right. We're just doing ranking one
We're
and two
ranking
against
as
each
we go.
other.
So the
Oh,
next
yeah,
time we'll
okay.
rank all four.
Oh, okay, good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd probably agree. I would say Chamber of Secrets is probably my top versus Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah.
Only because you just see so much character development and like you get more storyline between the whole wizarding world. So yeah,
And
I think
Dobby.
that's yeah.
Dobby
Yeah, and
makes it
Robbie.
amazing.
Listen, I love Dobby so much because this man,
Man.
this
Elf.
guy, this elf, this elf, he's had so much thrown at him his entire life, right? Like they disregard house elves so bad.
Yeah.
And then, but he is still so positive and he's out here just helping everybody. Like he just loves life. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that makes me cry because like he could literally be as depressed as like Creature and stuff
Yeah.
and all these other house elves.
Yeah.
And he's not. He's just like, you could throw the world at me, man, and I'm still gonna be happy to help.
That will be
Yeah.
the title of this episode, that Dobby is the MVP of this
And
universe.
Dobby really is.
Love
So,
Dobby. Can't
yeah.
argue with that.
Yeah. But cool. Well, hey, those are the first two Harry Potter movies. We can go in more in depth in the other ones if you'd like us to. But again, this is more just to talk about our love of Harry Potter and, how cool a lot of the things are. So, this has been the Real Friends podcast. Brynne is over there all the way from Illinois, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Illinois.
Yep. Illinois.
Hopefully it'll be
So
Ohio again soon.
there you go. Right
Yeah.
on. So Toledo. But cool, yeah. Like I said, this has been the Real Friends podcast, and as soon as Brynne decides to watch Harold Trotter and the Flesh Eating Slug Repellent, we will be back for the next two in this franchise. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.